Where is the cap going to be in 2 years when he's ready to resign? Carson Wentz is another guy that's probably licking his chops because he's going to be coming up. So those guys are the next wave. And where's it going to stop? And at what point do you look at the quarterback position like, good Lord, this guy is now 25% of our cap and he counts for less than 2% of the total roster? What are we going to do? How are we going to build a competitive roster around this? Because you're simply not going to hit on 7 draft picks every single year. You'll be lucky to hit on half of them. And you're not going to have the money to even probably keep a lot of those guys. So you're going to be constantly churning through guys. And if your quarterback gets hurt, you're really screwed. So it's a weird position for NFL teams right now because, like you said, you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers. What are you going to do? You would think you can't just let him walk. But then what's the draft capital for somebody like that? How many first-round picks would a team have given up to get a Russell Wilson? And then you basically start anew because the one thing about Seattle, Eric, that we know is this is not that great of a roster. They've lost a lot of guys on this team. They've gone cheap at the running back position. They've gone cheap at the wide receiver position. Even Baldwin's on a mediocre wide receiver deal. And we know for years that they don't pay anybody on the offensive line. So at what point does this come back to bite this team where you don't put any pieces around Russell Wilson? You either end up losing or he ends up getting hurt.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's soon. That's why I said the NFC West is a division that's building. You've got the Rams. Obviously, we know what they're capable of. I think the 49ers just continue to get better. And once Garoppolo's healthy, you never know what they're going to do. Once McKinnon's healthy, we haven't seen them at full strength yet. The Cardinals, they have to get better. And I think they're going to be an exciting team to see what they do come draft time because we don't know if it's going to be Rosen or Kyler Murray or what their strategy is going to be. But the bottom line is Seattle doesn't just walk away with winning that division over the next 4 years as Russell makes all this money. And you're right, their roster's just not that great. So I think ultimately you pay this guy, and even with his style of play, if he goes down, now you've got all that money sitting on injured reserve. It's dumb. I don't like it. Again, if it was the Jets or the Eagles, I wouldn't want it. I don't want the Eagles to pay Carson Wentz $160 million for 5 years coming up in a couple. I just don't like that because it just hamstrings you to where you can't do anything. And I think you're right. I think there's going to be something to be said. We'll see what the Browns do now that they've obviously drafted a quarterback for the last 97 years. But now that they've got Baker Mayfield and he's going to be playing on that cheaper rookie deal, you'll see if he does something over the next 2 to 3 years with the other parts of the roster they've been able to piece together because of that. You might see a new model start to creep up. And look, I'm actually surprised that the GM of the New York Giants didn't call and offer naming rights to the stadium and half of the roster and a great parking space and 3 scoops of ice cream to Russell Wilson and his family every time they visit the concessions. Whatever they wanted for a guy like Wilson. Now I realize this is not a free agency period, it's an extension period, but he was in line maybe to leave Seattle and make a bunch of money as well. So I don't know, but I don't like it.
Well, I can tell you why Gettleman didn't make that deal because he still thinks Eli Manning's a Pro Bowl quarterback. He's still convinced of that. Him and Mike Francesca are still convinced that Eli Manning is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. So
yeah, I think the fans are going to let them know that that's not the case this year.
Yeah, especially when they get their walking papers soon enough because Gettleman better turn this thing around quick. He better have one fantastic draft because if not, oh my God, the New York fans and media are going to eat him alive after what he's done to this team and the fact that he still keeps coming out delusionally thinking that Eli Manning, the guy that looked like he was taking soccer dives, making business decisions not to take hits early last year, is going to find the fountain of youth this offseason and be the answer that they need at quarterback, Eric. It's just not going to happen.
No, the time he throws his 3rd, 4th, 5th interception, the New York fans are going to be booing Eli so loudly that he will know that they're actually booing the GM, and it's just going to be a disaster there, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. The NFL draft in a couple of weeks. I think next week we'll probably crank up a little more draft talk, and then obviously we'll definitely cover what's going to go down with the draft. What do the Cardinals do with the number 1 pick? Do they go Kyler Murray? Are they going to trade Josh Rosen? Do they trade the pick? Does a team like Oakland jump up? They seem to have eyes for Kyler Murray, and we know John Gruden is pretty much delusional now when it comes to what he does with this roster. He's going to do the unexpected. So that's going to give us some content. Eric, let's talk about one last topic before we get out of here this week. NASCAR, another good ending in Richmond. You had multiple guys chasing down Martin Truex Jr., but once again, kind of a trend that we've seen, not a lot of cautions nothing really late. Really, we haven't even had a late race restart post Daytona, but we've gotten some good finishes, and the ratings have been stable to slightly up for NASCAR, which I think is a good sign for the sport that's been basically bleeding out fans for the last 4 to 5 years in terms of TV ratings. So it seems like maybe they've hit a point of stability and can start to maybe grow back. But do you feel like what we're seeing is going to translate to the fans, that they're going to be happy with just guys chasing down a lead and kind of good battles to the end? Or how badly did you feel like this sport just needs to have a short track with a late race caution and just get some fireworks to sort of build some drama into this season?
Well, I think one of the things that's resonating with the fans is that you are seeing a lot of different winners. Obviously, we've got Truex that just won, but you've got...
Well, you better be a Gibbs and Penske fan.
Well, I mean, but you've got... Okay, I see where you're going with that. But still, the names on the doors are different. You've got Hamlin, you've got Kyle Busch, you've got Keselowski, Logano. You've got, at least it's not the same guy all the time. It's not even the same 3 like it was last year battling. I think you've got at least the same 6 or 7. But you've also seen other names up there. DiBenedetto's been running well. Chris Buescher had a good run there at Richmond. You've got Austin Dillon that seems strong. Even guys like Daniel Hemrick, when they don't have mechanical failure, they seem to be running well. And so you have names that are mixing it up a little bit in the top 10. And then guys like Johnson, guys like Byron, guys like that aren't running in the top 10 all the time. And so you see a little bit of turnover on the leaderboard, and I think that helps. I think parity helps with the sport. But unfortunately, Richmond, for me, wasn't that great of a race. It's a shame that we didn't have time to talk about Bristol, because the racing at Bristol was fantastic a couple weeks back. Unfortunately, the fans weren't there to see that race, and it looked completely empty on TV, but the product on the track was fine. Richmond, though, over the past few years, Justin, hasn't been all that exciting of a race. I don't know if it's the tire package or the aero package or whatever it is. It just seems like it's a very short 3/4 mile version of a super speedway where there's a lot of action, at least guys racing near each other, but you don't see a lot of passing. You don't see a lot of chasing down of the leader. You don't see a lot of good storylines developing throughout the race. So Richmond just didn't seem that exciting to me this past weekend. And yeah, you want to see guys chase down and at least battle for the lead, but I didn't really feel like Truex was going to lose that. I mean, maybe that's just my skepticism because of how dominant he's been the past couple of years, and now he's in the 19, and you wouldn't think with Gibbs that dominance goes anywhere. He's still a great driver and now on a great team. I felt like he was pretty secure to win that.
Well, at one point, with the way that he was talking on the radio, I didn't think that he wasn't. Look, I had Truex in a single entry DraftKings tournament, and his ownership wasn't that high, so I was definitely pulling for Truex at that point. And I was mightily concerned because it felt like Bowyer just had run him down, and Truex was struggling in traffic so bad. And then he sort of went to the top side, didn't let Bowyer get the run, and I think Bowyer just used his stuff up, and then Logano got around him, and then it was like, uh-oh. Are we going to have a podcast that we get to kind of go back here in deja vu once again, where Logano's going to wipe out Truex Jr., or is he going to get by and Truex Jr. is going to take him out? So I thought that was kind of an interesting point. I thought even when Mike Joy brought it up and DW was like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that yet. There was a lot of storylines there. So it was good racing, I thought, for what you said. You know, I've been to a lot of Richmond races, and there is a tendency in that race to get a lot of green flag runs for some reason, even with it being a short track. And you just kind of saw that play out. We saw the same thing play out at Martinsville, which is weird, these short tracks. I don't know if it's this package with that spoiler where the cars are just sort of packed down on the track where the guys just don't lose the car, and the drivers are just better now where they just have more car control.
I think it's both.
It's just been definitely a lot of green flag racing, and thank goodness they've sort of tinkered with this package, and at least you've had some battles for the lead deeper into runs, because if this was the same package from last year, Eric, I think it would be another thing that just drives fans away, because there would really not be anything to watch. There would really just be one guy out front sort of running away. It almost feels like the season needs what that jolt it got last year when NBC took over. And it just felt like every race there was something at the end. It just feels like this year we just haven't got to that point yet.
Well, I think it's a bit of both. Like you said, I think both of the cars are better and the drivers are better. I like the fact that they can beat and bang these cars and they're not so flimsy that it's like, well, you go to the garage and you're out for the day. And it's a good thing, because now with the NASCAR rules package, to where if you pull it behind the wall, you're done. If you had an accident and you pulled it behind the wall, you're not coming back out onto the track if you haven't gone to the pits first. And we're not going to break down that whole silly rule. But either way, they can beat and bang, and guys have even pancaked the right side of the car, where in years past, I mean, that would send the toe out, that would break the suspension rods, that would do any kind of damage to the front end. And now it's like they pancake the wall and they go in the pits, change tires, pull the fenders out, and they're good to go. So I like that aspect because it keeps more cars on the track. But yeah, it's something to where they're close. I like it because they're close. I feel like they're on to something. They're just not quite there yet. And again, we've said in the past, we're not looking for useless cautions or water bottles on the track, or we don't want to see 13 wrecks just because that makes it exciting. I don't mind the fact that we have long green runs and we have pit stops under green. All of those things are exciting to me when the action on the track is good, hard racing. When it's not, when you have a 3/4 mile track and guys are just following in line, you go up high and then you sweep down low into the turn, then you go up high and then sweep down low into the turn. It's the same lap over and over. To me, that gets old because I can see that at Texas. I can see that at Auto Club. I can see that at Kansas. And when I'm at Richmond, I want to see passing. I want to see guys battling for the lead. I want to see back and forth racing. We're not quite there yet. And the same with Martinsville. So yeah, these cars are stable, but I also think these young drivers are really good. They're close, but they're not quite there yet. And I hope they get there. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Talk Back. Great topics there for us tonight, Justin. A lot to be happy about in the world of sports. I think we're just going to end this show with a shout out to Tiger Woods. Just continue to celebrate this week. The PGA is going to go to Harbor Town down there in Hilton Head, South Carolina. I've been there. That's a beautiful course, a beautiful area, but it's going to be a couple more weeks now that they've moved the PGA Championship from the end of the year into May. So like you said, Tiger's probably going to be incognito for the next couple weeks, and then he'll pop up here just before the next major. And the thing about Tiger winning that's going to be interesting is now he's got the confidence that he has won a major. And you go to the PGA Championship, which is at Bethpage, and he's won at that course in the past. And then the U.S. Open is at Pebble Beach. And oh, by the way, he has excellent memories at the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. I look to this as being potentially an opportunity for him to scrape through with 2 majors out of the year. And now you start talking about the Sam Snead record of 82 wins. And then you start talking about, of course, the 18 major championships. It's funny how that has all come back into the forefront and now seems like a possibility again. It's hard to believe. So we'll follow that obviously here on Talk Back. Justin, thanks for the great content. We appreciate all of you guys listening, giving us that 5-star review over on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, wherever you're listening to your podcasts. We thank you for the support and we look forward to talking back at you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of Talk Back. Staying current on sports is our #1 goal, so we drop a new episode each Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or the podcatcher of your choice. For more info about the show, to meet the hosts, or to partner with us on future episodes, please visit TalkbackFanTalk.com. We really enjoy hearing your take on the world of sports, even when you disagree. After all, this show is dedicated to you, the fans. So get direct access to us on Twitter using @TalkbackJustin and @TalkbackEric. Check out our corporate feed on Twitter and Instagram using the handle @TalkbackFanTalk. We hope you have a great week. We'll talk back at you next time.